What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a triple dynamic punch team which obviously got buffed this season and is honestly one of the more underrated buffs in my opinion, but because counter got nerfed a few seasons ago, fighting types aren't as strong as they used to be, and a lot of the dynamic punch users that have seen play actually aren't fighting types, including two of the Pokemon on this team, Dusknoir and Golurk. Now dynamic punch is now a clone of Avalanche and Psystrike, which are both seen as very strong moves. However, I believe both moves always get same type attack bonus by the Pokemon that can learn them. Anyways, these battles are from a few weeks ago, so forgive me for the lower elo and the fact that I might not remember exactly what happens in these battles whilst I'm doing the commentary. Also, I do want to give a quick shout out to Zeratul04, who managed to find all 5 eggs in the Easter egg hunt I did in my last video. Let me know if I should do more random things like that in the future, but with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Which move update do you think was slept on at the start of the season, but people are finally starting to realize just how good it is now? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Machoke into Frostlass. Now unfortunately Machoke completely walled by pretty much, well actually every single ghost type in the meta, but we're going to say swap into our Dusknoir. Going to go straight for a Shadow Punch. The opponent does catch it onto their Swampert. That's fine with me. I'm now going to use my first shield here, and I realize I can go for 3 hexes and then fire off another Shadow Punch, farming up to back-to-back Shadow Punches. I don't know who wins CMP in this matchup, so what I'm going to do is not throw straight away, and if the opponent throws immediately, what I can now do is double shield, and I should now be able to go for a full hex farm down. I'm able to get the farm down, come out with 100 energy, and the opponent reveals their final Pokemon, which is going to be a Venusaur. So I go for the Shadow Punch, but I realize I need this energy for the Frostlass. So I swap out, I bank 2 more Shadow Punches. I come back in with the Machoke. The opponent fires off the Frenzy Plant. They swap back into Frostlass. I could have gone for Dynamic Punch there, but instead, I'm going to force the opponent to panic, throw their energy, get rid of the Machoke there, because now I can come back in with my Dusknoir, and I can fire off back-to-back Shadow Punches. First one should be enough damage to get the KO from this range, and then I will leave with another Shadow Punch loaded to throw into the Venusaur coming back in. So Shadow Punch number 2 is going to connect. It does big damage. We swap into Shadow Golurk, and unfortunately, they do reach a last-second charge move. Frenzy Plant easily takes us out from that range, but I'm able to withstand the Vine Whip damage. 1 hex takes out the Venusaur, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. I realized I didn't actually throw Dynamic Punch once in that battle, but trust me, there are going to be a lot of instances where Dynamic Punch is going to be very helpful, including this one, where we're leading into Wigglytuff, a bit of a core breaker to the team. We go for Dynamic Punch, dealing big damage, and because of the pacing, I'm now able to reach another Dynamic Punch. The opponent actually catching it onto a Shadow Cradilly there, which might be a mistake. Maybe they just didn't realize we're going to reach another Dynamic Punch there. And what that does is now it puts them into range where Machoke can come in and get the Karate Chop farm down, and they don't even reach a charge move. The opponent probably going to come back in with the Wigglytuff, fire off a charge move straight away, but that's fine with me. Gonna shield as they go and debuff my attack with the Icy Wind. I'm going to bank another charge move, swap into Shadow Golurk. They've got Typhlosion in the back. They realize it's game over, so they just concede the match. So, GG's top on there, into next battle, another core breaker to the team. I will be honest, like, this team isn't well put together. It's literally just 3 Pokemon that all learn Dynamic Punch. So, unfortunately, a lot of flying types are going to core break the team, as we've seen already. Wigglytuff core breaks the team as well. Certain ghost types as well, especially if they're on, like, Shadow Claw or Astonish, where they can deal a lot of fast move pressure, are also going to be issues for this team. But either way, I'm able to grab a shield, then throw a charge move there. At this point, happy to let Dusknoir go down. I'm going to wait out the switch clock, come in with the Shadow Golurk, as we can do slightly more damage with these mud slaps, which are resisted, than the Karate Chops, which are also resisted. Now they come in with Shadow Drapion. I'm going to swap, bank the charge move, come in with the Machoke, make that catch there as they fire off the Aqua Tail, and now I can overfarm by 1 Karate Chop, throw on what should be a CMP type, but the opponent does overfarm. Dynamic Punch is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and they throw once again just before I reach that next charge move. So at this point, Aqua Tail gets the KO. I could have thrown straight away. Shadow Punch probably would have been enough damage to get the KO, but instead I opt for the fast move damage, going for a full fast move beatdown up against the Talonflame, coming back in, and they've got Lapras as their final Pokemon. I'm already at back-to-back Dynamic Punches. The first one gonna do huge damage. I could just settle for the Shadow Punch, but it's a Dynamic Punch showcase. Might as well full send it. We get the KO there. One more Mud Slap will be taking out the Drapion, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So, GG's top on there. Into next battle, we see a Dunsparce in the lead. A great lead matchup for me, but another core breaker to the team as the opponent comes in with their Talonflame. Now, I'm going to shield this. The opponent doesn't throw on the best timing, but also I'm not going to be able to throw on the best timing here because I want to guarantee both charge moves get thrown here on reasonably okay timing here. So we are going to go for another Hex, fire off the Shadow Punch. They're giving away 2 free turns in for free, but it doesn't really matter too much. However, the opponent does get a full Incinerate farm down. That is certainly not ideal. We're going to come back in with the Machoke, and they're actually going to be 1 Incinerate away from back-to-back charge moves. So they fire off the Fly. I could have thrown here, but I underestimated the energy, and that's a huge mistake. Fly easily gets the KO there. We come back in with our Shadow Golurk, and the opponent's going to swap, bank some energy, come in with a Primeape, and I've reached a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is enough damage to get the one-shot there. They come back in with the Dunsparce. I overfire as much as possible, firing off the Dynamic Punch on CMP, winning CMP, getting the one-shot, but unfortunately, the opponent just barely outpaces us by 1 turn. Fly will, of course, take out the Shadow Golurk from that range, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's top on there. Into next battle, see Credilli in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into Corsola, and this is a huge problem for the team. If the opponent wants to, they can just double shield and safely fully Astonish farm me down. I fire off the Shadow Punch there. Shadow Punch is going to be shielded by the opponent. I'm definitely going to shield, respect the damage from the Nightshade. Nightshade should be enough damage to get the KO, but as you can see right now, I'm only reaching 1 more charge move. The opponent will be double shielding, fighting for switch advantage, and unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about it. At this point, we're going to come in with the Shadow Golurk, as I do need to apply some damage here. Of course, Machoke is going to be completely walled by the Ghost typing, having everything double resisted. We're now going to fire off the Shadow Punch straight away. I just need to get rid of this Pokemon. Shadow Punch gets the KO. I'm going to swap out immediately into Machoke, and the opponent swaps into Wigglytuff, but we can go for Dynamic Punch here. Dynamic Punch going to do big damage, and Machoke incredibly spammy, able to reach a second Dynamic Punch before they get the farm down. Dynamic Punch number 2 gets the KO. The opponent cannot commit to a full farm down. They have to throw there, as I was just reaching another Dynamic Punch. Grassnot gets the KO, but Shadow Golurk able to reach a last second Dynamic Punch there up against the Credilli, and of course Dynamic Punch gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into next battle, we see Machoke into a Shadow Dragonite. So, once again, another core breaker to the team. As I mentioned already, like, this was not a very well put together team, but it is what it is. We are going to go for a Shadow Punch here. I will reach back to back, and I'm going to throw the next one straight away. If I go for the extra Hex, I do give the opponent the opportunity to throw 1 fast move and then fire off a charge move of their own. So, whilst that was not the best fast move timing, it does guarantee both shields. However, both shields isn't really ideal when I've only got Pokemon that are really going to struggle up against this Trevenant. So I'm going to shield the Seed Bomb here. I'm then trying to swap and catch the next Seed Bomb, but the opponent holds onto the energy. They fire off the Shadow Ball. It does huge damage. They can then snipe with the Shadow Dragonite, and things are just not looking good for us whatsoever. I'm going to shield this as they go for the Dragon Claw. I really can't afford to overfarm by much, so I'm just going to go straight for the Shadow Punch here. Shadow Punch gets the KO up against the Dragonite, but they've got Lantern as their final Pokemon. And Shadow Golurk able to reach a Dynamic Punch here. It's going to do more damage than the Shadow Punch. It gets the KO, but unfortunately, I'm still going to be Shadow Claw farmed down by the Trevenant, and I do end up losing that game. But GG's up on there. Into next battle, going to see the opponent's going to say swap into Superior after leading with a Forest. So I'm going to go straight for Dynamic Punch. I am 1 turn ahead as they did have to swap out there. So at this point, I'm going to wait for the opponent to throw. Presumably going to be an Aerial Ace. So I'm going to shield this up as it is the Aerial Ace. I can now overfarm by 1 and then swap and catch the next Aerial Ace onto my Dusknoir. Aerial Ace not going to do too much damage. And also I assume throw is going to be on Sucker Punch, so it's going to hit for super effective damage. What I want to do is come out fairly low, but with a Dynamic Punch loaded. But actually, it looks like the opponent's going to be on Quick Attack. So Dynamic Punch does huge damage, and they're actually forced to swap out there. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to farm me down. But it doesn't really matter. We've got Shadow Golurk in the back. The opponent realizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match. So, GG's up on that. Into next battle, we're going to see a Pangoro in the lead. So, battle of the Karate Chop users. I could have thrown straight away. I don't know who wins CMP, but I realized the opponent probably could go for a catch there. So, instead, I choose not to, and the opponent actually swaps out into a Dugong. So, double weak to the Machoke. Now it's time for us to be the core breaker to the opposing team. As we go for another Dynamic Punch, we are able to grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point, I'm happy to let the move go through. Icy Wind, gonna debuff my attack there, but it does does still allow me to get a full farm down, coming out with another dynamic punch loaded. So firing off straight away into Pangoro, coming back in, grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and the opponent throws on super poor timing there, meaning I get a full mud slap in for free, and that's going to allow me to very easily go for a full mud slap farm down. I don't know what was in the bag, but the opponent had no chance there, so they just concede the match. So, GG's up on that into next battle. We see Lapras in the lead. So, despite the fact that we have the typing advantage in this matchup, of course, Sideways are still going to chunk us here. So, we go straight for Dynamic Punch, grab a shield from the Lapras. I'm just going to match shields in this matchup. If they let the next one go through, I'm also going to do the same. However, Dynamic Punch should be enough damage to get the KO. So, the opponent swaps into Dust Noir, but they're on Astonish. So, once again, very much not ideal for me, as they're going to do so much more fast move pressure here. And I don't even know if I'm going to reach back-to-back Shadow Punches, in all honesty. So, Shadow Punch, gonna be shielded, but the opponent does throw their energy, so that is huge for me. It looks like I wouldn't have reached another charge move, and if they fully farm me down there, I believe that probably just would have been game over, because Machoke cannot do anything, and they would have reached a Shadow Punch to throw into Golurk. But now I'm able to reach the Shadow Punch. They've already got me incredibly low with the Astonish damage, but Shadow Punch gets the KO. They come back in with Lapras. I'm able to snipe with my Machoke here, go for the Dynamic Punch, which we banked, and we get the KO, but they've got Clodsire in the back, and honestly, this is a mistake here. What I should be doing is forcing the opponent to throw their energy. Instead, I go for Dynamic Punch, which doesn't do much damage at all. At this point, I realize they're committing to a full farm down, so I do full stun the return, and return does big damage, but it's not enough damage there. The opponent, even allowing a full mud slap in for free, still able to reach the Earthquake, get the KO there, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. We see Malamar in the lead. Another core breaker to the team. I swear, like, this team actually wasn't very well built at all. And basically, every single Pokemon that I'm seeing in the lead is core breaking the team. But either way, we're going to swap into our Shadow Dust Noir. It's not that bad for me because I can outpace them to the charge moves. I'm going to fire off the Shadow Punch here. And that might even be a CMP tie. So Shadow Punch, going to be shielded. And it is a CMP tie. So at this point, I'm happy to let the Dust Noir go down. I'm hoping I put them into range where 3 Mud Slaps will be enough damage to get the KO. So I'm going to wait at the switch clock. I'm switch locked, the opponent is not, and Shadow Golurk able to get that farm down there. They come in with their own Mud Slapper. I'm going to bank the energy, come in with my Purified Machoke, and the opponent continues to overfarm, allowing me to reach a Dynamic Punch, dealing, well, it would have done, what the heck? It would have done big damage, so the opponent used their final shield, and the opponent will get farmed down, but it doesn't matter. Shadow Golurk left with quite a lot of energy, so Shadow Punch, we're throwing it straight away. We get the KO up against the Marowak, and they've got Shadow Drapion in the back. This is going to be an easy end game for me. All I have to do is shield up the charge move. I go for 1 extra Mud Slap to practice throwing on good timing, but of course, Dynamic Punch easily takes out Shadow Drapion, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Shadow, Kanto, Marowak in the lead. So, we are going to stay in this matchup here. This is a fine matchup for me. I'm going to play out the Zero Shield scenario, especially since they do throw immediately, giving me a full Karate Chop in for free. Now, this should actually allow me to reach back-to-back Dynamic Punches, so I should be able to grab a shield in this matchup and deal big damage with another Dynamic Punch. So, Dynamic Punch coming through. It does huge damage, and it puts them into range where I can just snipe them with my Shadow Golurk before they reach another charge move. Now, of course, I've lost advantage, but I've got a shield advantage. I've got 2 of essentially the same Pokemon in the back. They come in with Clefable, absolutely fine with me. Of course, if they go straight for a Swift, that's going to be double resisted, so the opponent will be farming up to the potential Moonblast, and I'm definitely just going to shield, respect the damage. Even if they baited there, I don't think they would have reached another Moonblast. I'm able to get the full Mud Slap farm down, and they've got Charger Bug in the back, so this is absolutely game over. Shadow Punch does big damage. I'm going to bank the charge to swap into my Dust Noir, and the opponent instantly recognizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Claydol in the lead, so of course, not great for me. I'm going to swap into my Dust Noir, and the opponent is actually going to choose to stay in with their Claydol. I'm going straight for Shadow Punch, and surprisingly, the opponent actually lets that move go through. I assume they're just going to go straight for a Rock Tomb here, debuff my attack, so that's why I'm surprised as to why they didn't throw the charge move and debuff my attack there. Or sorry, they didn't shield the first move, but they come in with Talonflame, and that is awful news for me, as, like I mentioned already, Talonflame core breaks the team, and Dust Noir was my only neutral matchup, and it's now gone. So at this point, I'm going to use my shield here. The opponent fires off the fly. We're going to go for 2 Karate Chops, maximizing energy before throwing a charge move. Dynamic Punch is is going to be shielded by the opponent, but there's just really not a lot we can do in this situation. At this point, I'm going to have to double shield as they fire off the fly. They swap back into Kaleido, and I'm a little bit slow to swap out, and as a result, I'm not able to Mudslap farm them down. They've got 1 HP and a Dream. Rock Tomb is resisted damage, but it doesn't really matter anyways. They've got Galissapod in the back, another Core Breaker to the team, and unfortunately, even if we did get that Mudslap farm down, I think I was still going to lose that game anyways. But either way, I'm fighting till the end. We go for Dynamic Punch. We win CMP, but it's going to be game over as the opponent fires off the Aqua Jet, taking out Machoke, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. See Melmetal in the lead. A great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to safe swap into Annihilate, and I don't throw straight away because I'm expecting the opponent to instantly throw. And as a result, they do, and they throw on alignment, giving me a full Hex in for free. This is just going to guarantee an easy alignment for me now, as I can go straight for the charge move. I am now down a shield, but they reveal their final Pokemon, also weak to the fighting typing. So again, Machoke is core breaking their team. I go straight for Dynamic Punch, throwing on CMP, winning CMP, and the opponent not on Brutal Swing. So as a result, I'm able to tank the Dragon Claw, reach another Dynamic Punch, and that does huge damage, and the opponent comes in with a Melmetal, and that's just going to be game over. So the opponent is going to concede the match. So, GG's up on there into the final battle of this video, leading into a Swampert, so a fairly neutral matchup for me. I don't know who wins CMP in this matchup. I'm just going to throw straight away here. Not expecting a catch straight away, but we go for the Dynamic Punch, grab a shield. The opponent is going to overfarm quite considerably before firing off the charge move. They go for Hydro Cannon there. Again, I'm going to throw immediately. Maybe not the best hit, just in case the opponent does try and make a catch. I feel like it's always a lot easier to make a catch on the second charge move thrown, but either way, we're going to double shield as well. Match shields from the opponent, and the opponent is finally going to swap, make that catch there, banking the Hydro Cannon. Dynamic Punch does big damage, and it puts them into Mudslap range for the Shadow Golok. However, of course, they can come back in with the Swampert and go for one Mud Shot, fire off the Hydro Cannon before I do reach that Shadow Punch. But this is still okay with me. I can come in with my Shadow Dusknoir, and the opponent will reach a Hydro Cannon. But Shadow Dusknoir, not the bulkiest Pokemon ever, but it will tank this, and it will be able to go for a full farm down. So the opponent swaps into their final Pokemon, which is going to be a Credilli, but it doesn't matter. Dynamic Punch does huge damage. I'm already at back-to-back, so I throw the second one straight away. It gets the KO there. We can come back in with the Machoke, get the Karate Chop farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.